Let's read paragraph 4 and also look at the questions so that we can come up with the say and the do for this part. So if you have your article, go ahead and read paragraph 4. And actually, it's going to make sense to combine it with paragraph 5. So go ahead and read that paragraph as well. Okay, so I hope you've taken the time you need to read that paragraph and think about what the author is saying. I'm going to combine these two paragraphs together so that because they talk about kind of similar ideas. So that means that in paragraph 4 and 5, what the author is saying in there is that aid in dying medication is a comforting, I'm going to say it's a comforting resource, not the murderous process that is attributed to it by opponents through terminology such as euthanasia, mercy killing, and assisted suicide. So I originally separated these paragraphs 4 and 5, but when I did the say and do for them, they ended up being so similar that it just made more sense to combine them together. So that means we've got paragraphs 4 and 5 together, and where Olvera defends some of the ideas that, some of the attacks that people have used against the aid in dying process. So he defends euthanasia. He refutes some of the frameworks / vocabulary that have been assigned to this topic by the author's opponents. So that means that when opponents are saying that this aid in dying, this physician-assisted death, they're saying that medication is euthanasia, it's mercy killing, but he is saying that is not the case. So what I have in the row for what does the author say for paragraphs 4 and 5, aid in dying medication is a comforting resource, not the murderous process that is attributed to it by opponents through terminology such as euthanasia, mercy killing, and assisted suicide. So people call it these things, but that is not accurate. So what is the author doing when he is giving this information? Well, he is defending euthanasia, and he is refuting some of the frameworks or vocabulary that have been assigned to this topic by the author's opponents. So that's paragraphs 4 and 5. Take a moment and read paragraph 6. And there's actually some information that's a little bit confusing in here. I had to check with my colleague about the meaning of this paragraph, but take a moment and read it. Okay, and what's going to be helpful is also checking and reading paragraph 7, where they're talking about, again, also terminology. And what's confusing is this idea of adopting similar policies. That's some of the last words in paragraph 6. And what that means is it's specifically related to terminology. It's not talking about supporting euthanasia. It's not talking about taking a stance on it. It's talking about the terminology that's used. So make sure that you're clear on that and you're not saying that something like the American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine, they support physician aid in dying. That's not what this is saying. It's saying that they support this terminology. So make sure that you're clear on that. So let's go ahead and go back to our say and do chart. And for part 6, what we're going to do is say that there are 4 associations that agree with Olvera's terminology related to physician-assisted death. I'm putting PAD, physician-assisted death. Okay, so there are 4 associations that agree with Olvera's terminology related to physician-assisted death. And so what is he doing here? He's giving this information, but more importantly, what he's doing is he is giving evidence. In the form of expert opinion for his previous claim. So that previous claim, that terminology, the physician-assisted suicide, mercy killing, and euthanasia are incorrect ideas. All right, or incorrect terminology for this. All right, let's look at paragraph 7. So we looked at it a little bit, but I want to take a moment, go back, go ahead and read paragraph 7. Pause now if you need to. All right, so I hope you've gotten a chance to read paragraph 7, and let's look at, to summarize that, what I said is in states where physician-assisted death is legal, assisted suicide is illegal, and death certificates don't list assisted suicide as the cause of death for physician-assisted death, so patients who take this route. So what I've listed is in states where physician-assisted death is legal, assisted suicide is illegal, and death certificates don't list assisted suicide as the cause of death for physician-assisted death. So normally you would expect, like, if that was actually what was happening, if the society truly saw it that way, that's what would be listed, but it's not. So if we want to think about what the author is doing here, what Olvera is doing here, is he is still looking at this idea of terminology. So he is giving, further evidence. So official, legal processes and language for previous claim, about language. So we've got what he's doing by explaining this information is giving further evidence for in the form of legal processes and language for his previous claim. All right, so that is this little chunk right here. We'll come back with the last little chunk of the say and do chart in just a bit.